What is up, cool kids? My name's Gavin, I'm that cool trainer, and I've had the most incredible weekend. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that because I think it's really important. I'm going to make it pretty quick because I just got back from hiking all day, and I'm hot and sweaty and in desperate need of a shower. So, as some of you may or may not know, there was a large march on Saturday, in over, I believe the count was over 600 cities around the world to protest against the growing movement to dismiss science and scientists. And I really don't like talking about really controversial things on this channel because, you know, Pokemon's Pokemon. Like, that's mostly what I want to stick to, at least for now. But I think this is super important, and I'm really just telling as many people as I possibly... Now, the reason why I personally went to this march is because, sort of, like on a smaller note, I've never been to D.C., and it was a free trip. I'm not going to lie to you, that was a huge factor to me. But the biggest reason is that I cannot stand people who just don't even want to learn about science at all, or people who spread things that are just blatantly incorrect, like things like the earth is flat. Like, what? Like, there's absolutely no evidence, credible evidence, to support things like the earth is flat, that magnets help with healing, that outside of MRIs, I mean, those are different, but like magnetic wristbands make you more balanced. Things like climate change isn't real. Like, these things have no credible support, and the fact that they're being propagated by so many people in society, high-level people in society like politicians and celebrities, just being dismissed out of hand, and the fact that so much funding is being cut from scientific research is a huge problem. Like, science is what made the United States great. And if you're not from the United States, this part doesn't as much apply to you, but the United States in the 1960s, at the beginning, said, we are going to the moon. And we did. On the backs of geniuses and great men who were basically like heroes to the entire country. And now, like, you say the name of, you know, a famous scientist who isn't, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, or Stephen Hawking, people are like, who is that? I have no idea who that is. But back then, people knew who all, maybe not all, but at least the ones working on the important things were. And this whole movement wasn't saying things, so I've had some people talk to me about this. This whole movement wasn't saying, like, non-STEM. If you don't know what STEM means science, technology, engineering, and math. That, like, non-STEM majors are not important. That's not what this was. I shouldn't say every. Most majors are important to the world. Like, the main person who I had a conversation with this about was a journalism major. That is so important, especially in today's society. Like, with all this fake news, the actual fake news going around, we need people to have a good enough moral compass to know when to say, this is wrong, I'm not reporting. This movement was the demand for scientists to be respected and listened to, because science is the best device mankind has ever come up with to decide the truth. Science does not care what you believe. Science is true whether you believe it or not. Science goes by, this is the evidence, here's how I got this evidence, here are the numbers to back it up, this is true. If I do that, somebody that is like a rival of mine in my field will be like, hey, I think you're wrong. I'm going to do that test for myself. Then that person finds the same conclusion for themselves, and so on and so forth, until they're like, man, this is something. This is real. This is true. The march was also for B, or 2, I don't remember what I said first, that we need an increase in funding, because so much funding has been cut between things like the National Park Service, because the National Park Service does a lot of really great science, and it does a lot of really good communication between scientists and the public, which is also hugely important. And three, and in my opinion, the most important, is that we need an increase in scientific literacy, which doesn't mean that we need people to just go out and like read a bunch of scientific papers and become experts in science on top of whatever they're already doing. That's not what that means. To be scientifically literate means to just not take things at face value and to make decisions for yourself based on evidence, not based on what CNN or MSNBC or Fox News is telling you. To be able to look up things and make decisions based on evidence. That's what scientific literacy is. And to just not be afraid of something you don't know. I don't even know how I want to word this, to be honest. People just disregarding science, be like, oh, I don't know anything about this, so like, why am I talking about this? Like, learn! I get this. Some people don't have time. I get that. I don't have a lot of free time. But if there's something that I'm like, oh, this could be interesting, I research it, I look it up, and that's what needs to happen. Like, I'm going to go back to because I'm not even going to talk about climate change because that's already a solved thing. And that, at this point, I think the people who disregard climate change are doing it for money reasons, not for any kind of personal reasons. For like money and attention reasons. I'm going to talk about for people who believe the earth is flat. Because believe it or not, there's a strikingly large proportion of people, of Americans, that believe the earth is flat. And to go along with this, things like the sun is only 4,000 miles away from the earth, even though it's a couple billion miles across. I don't even know how to argue with that. Like, if it was that close, the earth would be melted. To be honest, it would be a giant ball of melted rock. That's what it would be. And like when you address these kind of things, like some evidence, obviously why the earth is not flat, other than obviously pictures from space, things like, well, why does it take longer to, because the flat earth map, I've actually looked up a fair amount about this to be like, not that I would ever believe it, but I at least want to see where these people are coming from. So one of the arguments that they said is that a flat earth map, the center of the map, and it's a circular map, so the center of the map is what we call the North Pole, and around the outside is Antarctica, and that's why the water doesn't just fall off the earth. Which, good for them for covering their bases with the water not falling off the earth, but it takes longer to fly around the equator of the earth because it's a sphere, so it takes longer to go around here than it does around here or here because it's a sphere. And when you address that, they don't have an answer, or at least not a good one. So like, and they don't even want to talk about, oh, you could be right, I'm going to look this more up. No, people are just like, oh, I'm going to hop on this because I think it's funny, I'm just going to troll people. Like, you are the problem. So the whole moral of this video was basically just don't take things at face value. Do whatever you can, especially when you're young, and have time to just become scientifically literate and not be afraid of trying to learn new things. And don't raise your potential children in the future to do these things as well. Even if you think like, oh, it's too late for me to learn any science, don't do that kind of thing to your kids. Because at this point, Washington's already pretty screwed. I'm going to be honest. And I know I'm making this more political than just science should be. But we need people making decisions now that will affect the future. And the people in Washington right now are not capable of doing that. So we need people right now that are not in Washington making the decision to be in Washington. I myself am considering finishing up my schooling all the way through like I'm normally planning to, getting my doctorate, getting my master's, not in that order. And then potentially, looking at running for an office. Because, like, after seeing all of these things, I just love helping people. And I think the best way to do that is to teach them science. Whether that's in a classroom or in Congress. But thank you so much for watching this little rant. There's something I really need to get off my chest, which I'm showing a lot of today. I don't know why. But thank you so much for watching. Normal videos. I'll probably put up a video saying this on Tuesday, or tomorrow. But there's not going to be any Soul Link this week, because Abby's been sick and she can't really talk, and she's quiet enough in the videos anyway. So Soul Link's not going to be up this week. I'm just going to put up some Team Builders and Wi-Fi battles. So keep an eye out for those. And until next time, smile later.